Folks, welcome to Friday night, but it's not Step by Step or Family Matters. We are talking UB basketball, and we are here with the best of the best. Of course, we got Mike B, and we got Kevin M. I'm Maniac, as always. Gents, it feels like it's been forever. UB men's hoops back in action.
Yeah, it's just something you like to see. I'm glad that they were able to get this game in. UB was going to be missing a couple of games in a row against weaker opponents. So to make their quest toward the top half of the MAC, they needed these couple of games where they match up pretty well against this WMU squad. It's a team that UB usually takes advantage and care of teams that are lesser than them. That's not been one of their faults so far in this season, or really in the last couple of years. So they really needed these games to get in. And to continue to rise. I mean, I even think Ohio's hasn't played in 4 or 5 games or something. So it's good that they're able to get this game in, help them in the standings, continue to, maybe go toward that 3 or 4 seed as we hit March. And it's a big deal to be in that 3 seed because that might mean a matchup against like the Miamis of the world rather than, maybe seeing Ohio or Kent in the first round. So it's a big game.
Yeah, huge game for UB, especially when you have a matchup against a team that should be a victory. You can't afford to give up any W's, especially when win percentage is going to decide tie-breaking scenarios in the MAC tournament. And you're right, Kev. Just get the games in any way you can. I was getting a little sad at the thought of going a week or so without any UB basketball, but glad they found a way to get this game in somehow.
And you guys obviously know more than most. So obviously, conventional UB fan like myself, looking at the standings, looking at Western Michigan at 4-11, looking at a UB squad that's been able to get in a relative rhythm at home as of late when they've actually been playing. And I see, the double-digit 15, 14-point favorite. I mean, this is just plain and simple. Oh, this has to be a win. Anything less than a win is almost incomprehensible at this stage in the game going into middle February here. You can't have a loss as a double-digit favorite to a team that much lower than you in the standings, in my opinion. I mean, am I crazy? Could WMU, hit us in the mouth here?
I mean, the funny part about WMU is they probably were one of the worst teams in college basketball. They lost Flowers. They just generally aren't very good. And then they went off and ripped off a win against Bowling Green, a team that beat UB twice, and it's in a free fall. I mean, we're talking about, I think they've lost 7 games, 6 of the last 7, and only beat UB. And so the team's in rough shape over there in Bowling Green. But this WMU squad took care of them, won by a couple points, was 6 points actually at Bowling Green, and then took care of a pretty poor CMU team by 2. So they've tiny bit of momentum coming off of 2 wins. UB hasn't won 3 games in a row yet this season. I mean, we do have to say that. I mean, I know, 3 is not a crazy amount to me, not when you're playing some of the lesser of the MAC teams. So we'd like to see them string 3 games together. 14-point favorites. I do think they'll cover that at home. I don't like the way they played at home against Ohio, but I do think you'll see them begin to, rise to the top. UB seems to play well on these off of these breaks. I can say that off of these, weak breaks. It's when they play 2 and 3, which worries me about the MAC tournament. But when they play 2 and 3 and 4 games in a row, or some relative comparison of that, when they had to get on those COVID games and whatever, that's when they started to struggle. It's those lags. They're not deep. We know that. We've talked about it on this show, Mike. So that's where they start to get into some big problems. But off those 1 week breaks, 1 week, 2 week breaks, they've been fine coming out almost with more energy than they do in bigger games. So, I mean, I'm not too worried tonight. WMU's had their schedule all up in a roar and had to travel. I think they've had their own COVID concerns. We can't say who's playing on their team. I can't imagine their whole squad.
Yeah, you never take any games for granted if you're a UB fan. The last couple of years, we've seen some stinkers along the way, losses to Army back-to-back years, and some bad teams getting victories against this Bull squad. But the one thing with UB, at least this year, is they've taken care of business in the games that they should win in MAC play. Where they've struggled are against the top 4 teams in the MAC. So yep. Western Michigan, they're a bottom feeder. I can't see a scenario where they're going to come to UB after all of these COVID issues and get a victory, especially with the talent discrepancy on the court. UB just has much better players than the Broncos at this time. So while it could happen, I wouldn't predict it if it was me today.
And you're getting the tail of the tape here, folks, on the Bullet Point 716 pregame show. If you haven't already, give our correspondents here a follow. You see their tags. They're not exactly there, but for Mike, it's Mike_Bunt. For Kevin, it's that name right there, Kevin Masari. For me, and I'll just wrap this up. I started talking about a conventional fan, how it's just got to be a win. In the same light, this is a chance for this UB team has a lot of pieces. That's the thing. They are not one-dimensional by any means. They can have a bad game from one aspect and still put up 70, 80 points. With that said, Javon Graves, Ronaldo Segu, a chance to dictate the pace for those guys. Mbala, he's been dominating all year, so just exert yourself with another 15 rebounds. A chance to really get some momentum going in. I mean, I guess they're already in the second half of the season at this point. It kind of snuck up on us with the way that everything kind of broke down, but with March tournament, realistically, no more than a month or a month and a week away. It's definitely something to start looking at. So as we start to zone in on this matchup tonight, do you guys have a key matchup like maybe Mbala down low or maybe even Graves and Segu and their ability to dictate the pace like we were talking about?
Yeah, there's a couple things you like when you look at this Western Michigan team. It's a slow-paced team. They're only averaging 63.7 points per game, good for 361st in the country. They don't share the ball particularly well at 11 assists per game. They like to keep it slow, grind it out. They're still allowing a lot of points for playing that style of basketball. I thought they played UB fairly well, even though they lost double digits. They played fairly well in stretches. UB was just a better team. But I mean, the matchup, they just don't have the physical size to defend an Mbala. They have a guy named Greg Lee down low who's pretty good, 6'9", 210. He has the ability to get some things done. And Titus Wright, another guy, 6'8", sophomore, who looked pretty good as well. So they do have an advantage there. However, I think the bigger advantage for UB is at the guard spot because they have some really, the MAC's pretty guard heavy and they have some pretty underachieving guards and B. Artis White, who's okay, and then nothing else. So B. Artis White's pretty good. Outside of that, they roll with a mishmash of players. Josiah Freeman plays a lot, an ex-UB recruit who, I was told didn't perform educationally and wasn't really the right fit after being recruited. Per my sources. So that's why he was let go into the market and going back to WMU, a place that gave him a shot. He is playing 18.7 minutes per game, 4 points, modest 2 rebounds. So he's there, but he's a key part of that guard rotation. If Segu's rolling, if Graves gets rolling, it's going to be, it's a tough battle for WMU to compete at that guard specific position. And they just don't have anyone to guard the wing. Let's whittle down the big man and the guards and let's talk about the wing. I don't think they have the wing presence. Even if they double up in ball with some bodies are able to do so. Janathan Williams has to take over in this. They don't have the wing presence to even come close to guarding him. So the wings, the key matchup in this game, watch out for Janathan Williams. He's going to be the X factor. And the way that Western Michigan plays is, I watched the first game back and they just did not have an answer for Janathan, going for 25 points, 10 for 17. So Janathan's the key to this game. And that's really where I see another 20 plus performance from Janathan tonight.
I feel like you just named the entire roster, Kevin.
You said they got lots of options. These Bulls can drive you up a wall, but let's face it, they are not going to be one-dimensional once March
comes around. The Western team's
around.
not good either.
I'll go even deeper. If you want to take every single star player on the team, I was going to go with Janathan and obviously Josh Mbala. They tore Western apart the last game, combining for, I believe, 39 points and 23 rebounds. So I think those two will have big games again. But what I want to see today, I want to see UB take care of business. I want them to jump out to a big lead, and I want to get some of the bench guys another opportunity. David Skogman had an impressive performance against Miami, which is actually doing okay right now against Akron. And then you got Trayvon Fagan double digits the last game as well against the Red Hawks. Let's finally develop a bench. We've been too reliant at UB on these top 4, and while the talent discrepancy is there, we need these we need these bench guys to really start to step up, give the top 5 some minutes of rest so we can finally get a little bit of a rotation going heading into March. That's a key to me in these type of games. Get the bench involved early.
Of course, and speaking of getting involved early, I'd be remiss not to mention for all our Trainwreck sports fans, all the great action going on tonight. Obviously, We were fortunate to get this UB matchup kind of shoehorned in for some Friday night special at the last second. You got Australian Open, you got all kinds of NHL action, so it is a full slate Friday night. So you guys gave us our slates, you gave us the breakdowns. And again, I know it sounds crazy to lock people into a score prediction for a basketball game, but we do it, and then Kevin misses it by 2 points overall. So we got to do it. Give me the prediction, Western Michigan, UB.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick around where I was at. I think they just cover. I got 85-70 in this game. I think that's the number I've been feeling. Guess right around what Western does. UB is going to continue to score. They don't, like we've mentioned, they don't have the presence to cover a lot of them. And if they start to double up somebody, they're going to have good matchups. So I got 85-70. Western Michigan might poke around at points. They do have stretches of playing good basketball, as we've seen them beat Bowling Green. And they played well in small increments against UB at home. So I got 85-70. I don't ever think it'll be quite out of hand like we saw last game, but 85-70 is kind of what I've been feeling in this game, because Western Michigan can still bang a little bit, bang bodies. So
yeah, that's almost a repeat of last game, which was 85-69. I'm feeling 87-72. So if the line was 15, I have it right at that line. Vegas is normally right for a reason. So
14, right? Isn't it 14?
14? Okay, then
it's fluctuating. You guys are dirty dogs, though. I'll tell you what. That's why they got to make an ESPN Sports Center. Like you said, more often than not, it goes right down to that number. So it'll be very interesting to see. Very interesting to see Ronaldo Sugu, Javon Graves, Jonathan Williams, and the whole group of Bulls back in action. Tip off just minutes away. Make sure you're following again at Mike Bunt, at Kevin Massari. If you want to give me a follow, that's cool too. Make sure you're following at Bullet Point 716 for all the best coverage of these UB Bulls in Western New York, because they're not your UB Bulls. They're not my UB Bulls. They're our UB Bulls. We got Death by Content. Last second chiming in here. Line is currently -14. So Bunt and Kev both taking the cover. Let's hope that UB is covering on defense and taking all the assignments, making it an easy one here on a Friday night, climbing those max standings as we head down the stretch run. It's 3 words, and for hopefully Western Michigan, it'll be good night now. But for us right here, it's let's go Bulls.